Hello, it's Liz from Old Stables Crafts. How are you today? I hope you're well. It's very hot here while I'm filming this, but still got to look at Christmas because Christmas is only about 100 days away. Seriously, can't believe it. So it's Saturday, therefore it's Simple Stamping Day, and it is a proper simple stamping project that I've got to show you today. So let me flip the camera down. There we go. And I'm using the Gift of Giving stamp set. So it's got 5 stamps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To you, Gifts from Santa, and Have a Cup of Cheer. They're all gorgeous, they're all great for colouring and possibly some fussy cutting. Bit of a clue there as to what I'm going to be doing. I thought I had played with my camera so that we didn't have autofocus. Anyway, let's hope it behaves. So let me show you the project. This is what we are going to make together, and because it's Simple Stamping Saturday, I have decorated the envelope as well. So let me show you how I made it. Note card and envelope is what I'm looking for, which is here, hiding under something else. Always a plan. I've got my stamp already mounted up. I didn't even bother cleaning it from when I was making the samples because, you know, lazy crafter. So note cards and envelopes are a great way to start your stamping experience. They're also great for quick cards, so don't think of them as only being for beginners. So I've used Memento Tuxedo black ink because it's a good black ink. If you're worried about it running, now let's go back one. I'm using watercolor pencils, but I'm not using water. I'm going to be using one of our color lifters. So I can't use StazOn because this will lift it. If you're using a water brush, then you want to use StazOn. But if you're using a color lifter or one of our blender pens, then Memento is fine. If you're using a blender pen, please make sure you stamp. Leave it, you know, if you're doing conveyor belt stamping, do all your stamping, then go back to the first one, do all your colouring, then move the ink around with your blender. The reason I say that is because the blender pens do have a bit of water in them. Right, there are 2 basic techniques that I want to show you here. Now, I was hoping I was going to be able to get away with just using the second assortment of watercolor pencils, and then I realized I needed black and grey. Well, definitely black, and once I used black I might as well have used grey as well because they're in the first assortment. Anywho, so I'm using Garden Green, Cherry Cobbler, Daffodil Delight, which actually is from the first set anyway, so Balmy Blue, Basic Black and Basic Grey. The 2 techniques that you need to really understand with watercolor pencils and how to get shade, light and shade, is the more pigment you put down, the darker the image will be. It won't actually be darker, it will just be more heavily pigmented. So if you put down less pigment, it will appear paler. So this is my granny, no, it's not my granny anything, it's my Garden Green. And I know that I've got a flat surface kind of there-ish. So if I go over this bit of my image with the flat surface, I'm not going to put too much colour down or pigment. It's going to be fairly pale, and when it comes to moving that around it will appear very pale, which is what I want. But I want the ribbon on this box to be a more solid green, so technically it's not darker, but to look darker. So I'm going in with the point and I'm going to lay down lots of pigment. So any sharp edge whether it's an actual point or not. I've got this flat area, so I've got a sharp edge all the way around that flat area. That will give me more pigment. So let me show you that again. I need pale yellow for the from, so I'm going to use the side of my watercolour pencil to add pale yellow, and it will look very pale on your screen. And then I'm going to take the point and add lots of pigment. So lots and lots of pigment because I'm using the point of the pencil. And I'll just finish doing the yellow, and then I will show you again what I mean when I use the blue. So that's Daffodil Delight. So balmy blue. If I want pale, I'm coming in with the side of my pencil, which is a flat surface. Like that. And then I want brighter stripes, so come in with the point and I get a more solid finish, which will appear to be darker but is actually just more solid. And you can do that within an image as well. So let me show you what I mean by that. So if I take my green, I'm just going to sharpen it a wee bit because I'm losing the flat bit. So I'm just going to give it a quick sharpen. Oh, apparently I'm not. Apparently I'm going to take the lead out. Let's try that again. These are a fairly well-travelled set, and I've dropped them, I cannot tell you how many times. Too many, apparently. See, I should have not tried sharpening on camera. Got my sharpener all bunged up now. This really doesn't want to play ball for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the colour. And I am going to use, let's use Granny Apple Green. So it's just for this bow. So I've got a flat piece there. And then I've got this point at the edge of the flat piece, and I can add more pigment with that. So let me see if I can remember where I put my zoom. There. Whoa! Don't you love it when things work? So hopefully you can see that there is more colour at the top and in the middle than on the main bit of the bow, and definitely with the blue you can see that there's a difference between them, and the yellow, there's a difference between them. So let's go back to full screen and get rid of those. I have done a bit of a Blue Peter and prepared one from earlier when my garden green was happy to be used. So let's bring in a piece of scrap, because you do need to make sure your nib is clean. So if I come in here on my green, I'm going to get a more solid look in the middle of that bow. Let's see if I can zoom in again. Pretty much. So, ooh, sorry, something's just jumped into the middle of my screen. Can you see that I've got more? I think just about you can. So let me continue with the green. And in fact, if I bring this across, although you haven't got my ugly mug to look at, this may be easier for you to see. So just going to clean that off because I now want the bigger end, so the fat end, and I can move this around, and where the blender pen peels the paper, the colour lifter doesn't, because it's alcohol. So it's a much easier medium to work with. Let's clean that. Let's go into the blue. Clean that. The yellow. And pretty much everything else I will do with the bullet tip. So let's do cherry cobbler from up here. And then my little cardinal. I couldn't really turn it into a robin because it has that cardinal point on the top of its head. So I'm just accepting it's a cardinal. And I think they're red. And then the trousers. Stripes. Let's do the yellow first. The yellow, when you go over it with the blender pen, sorry, the colour lifter, doesn't change that much in its finish, but the blue becomes really smooth. And the reason for that is that because the yellow is a lighter colour, it just doesn't show the difference so much. But with the blue, I'm hoping you can see just how smooth that is. So it's almost the same finish as you would get with with stamping blends, but with the advantage that it doesn't bleed through to the card, to the inside of the card. Right, so all I've got to do now is this. So his fur, which has got some basic grey on it, just some very light basic grey, and you could leave it white. Now the other thing you can use to move your watercolour pencils around with is the Wink of Stella, and then obviously you'll get a bit of sparkle as well. Just bear in mind that Wink of Stella is quite fluid, so you can't be quite as accurate with it. So I've shaded or put less crayon on the gloves than I have on the belt, because the belt is a solid image, and the gloves and the boots you do want to be able to see the stamped image that's underneath. So there we go. So that is, let me come back up again. That's the colouring for that, but we've obviously got to do an envelope because it's Simple Stamping Saturday. So I've got the little leaf and berry image, and I'm just going to stamp that in the corner, hoping I've got the bottom corner and not the top corner, but either is fine. It really doesn't matter. Oh, but I got it right. And then, of course, I'm going to need a different green for my leaves. So let's use the Granny Apple again. It's only because I dropped that pencil. So I broke the lead. It's called being ham-fisted. Had I not dropped the pencil, I wouldn't have broken the lead. Right, so fold this in half, find my bone folder, which was here just now. There it is. And we have our little card. Now this is the sort of thing that I would do while I'm watching television, because I don't watch television, I have it on in the background. So that's that card. Now for my first stepped up one, I have introduced the blends and obviously some embellishment, which is, it's the trio of the tinsel. Technically these are not the colours that go with this, but they kind of do, so that's absolutely fine with me. And I have put a bit of shadow here because otherwise it looks like he's standing in the middle of nowhere. I kind of don't have a problem with it on the note card, don't ask me why. But let me show you, if you do have that problem, what I would do is take my basic grey and just do that, and suddenly he is standing on something. I think you can, let me see if I can, what happens if I put that on? Oh no, I bleed it out completely. So we'll turn that off again. Yeah, you can just see here that there's some shading. So that is my first stepped up version, and because I've used on this shaded spruce and cherry cobbler with Azure Afternoon and Daffodil Delight and Pebbled Path. Great if you don't want a black. It's that it gives the impression of black without being black. And then to marry with the Pebbled Path, I used grey granite for the fur, because they're both a soft grey, a warm grey. So I've got shaded spruce and cherry cobbler mattes, and then for my really stepped up version I have this one, which looks the same until you do that. And I've got the base stamped image and 4 layers that I've just fussy cut to give some dimension. And other than that, the decoration is basically the same. I've just put them in different places. So there you go. The first of my Christmas cards made with gift of giving. Hope you've enjoyed that. If you did, a thumbs up is always appreciated. If you've got any questions or comments, please leave those below the description bar and I will get back to you. I'm up to date at this moment when I'm filming this. Oh, and I meant to say, I also stamped on the inside of my cards, and I used the same stamp as for the envelope on the other one. So yes, if you've got any questions or comments, leave those below the description bar and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Otherwise, remember that there will be close-up photographs of all of these projects over on my website, so do hop over there if you want to take a closer look. And in the meantime, have a great weekend. It's going to be hot here in the UK with possible thunderstorms, because we've had hot weather for a few days, so why wouldn't we have a thunderstorm? So yes, hopefully it will be dry for this evening, because we want to have a barbecue, and that's this evening, Saturday. So have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you again very soon. Bye for now.